Amen, amen. Go with me to Mark, the 3rd chapter, and real quick, verses 1 through 5. Starting in verse 1, and he, talking about Jesus, entered the synagogue again, and a man was there who had a withered hand. And they watched him closely whether he would heal on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Step forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they kept silent. And when he had looked around at them with anger, being grieved by the hardness of their hearts, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored as whole as the other. My thought for this morning: when life deals you a bad hand. Church, back in the day, there was a card game, if you remember, called Spades. And what I liked about Spades was when you had a good hand, you could talk trash and say, "Oh, it's going down." But when you had a bad hand, you had to sit quietly and just play the hand that you're being dealt. You see, family, it's a bad hand or a withered life when you have a dysfunctional family, when you're broke, busted, and disgusted, when you so low you can't see the curb, no job, you give house foreclosed, car repossessed, no job. That's a bad hand. But even though life sometimes deals you a bad hand, I stopped by this morning to encourage you that you can win when life has dealt you a bad hand. You don't believe me? Ask Kobe Bryant. In 2010, he led the Lakers to the NBA title. His right hand, his index finger, was broken, but he won. Now, our text begins by telling us in verse 1, we talked about, it said, Jesus entered. It said, again. I like that word. Jesus entered again into the synagogue, talking about the church. Now, I could preach on that phase all day right there. Jesus entered again into the church. The number one need in our lives is Jesus. I don't care who you with, who you met, what you got. It's all about Jesus. We got a lot of theology in the church, but we need some Jesusology and some Christology in the church. I saw this sign saying, and I liked it. It said, Jesus is like an exit sign in a public place, because when you look up, he will lead you out of whatever mess that you in. Glory to God. So then he starts in verse 1. It says, first, this is what I like what the man did. He showed up. What happened if the man didn't show up where Jesus was working? He's the only one that can declare, I can do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can ask or think. 80% of life is just showing up. Hey, some days Vondy don't want to show up, but I got to get up and tell myself, you can't be moved by what you see. You can't be moved by what you hear. You can't be moved by even how you feel. Only by what Jesus says. Amen. The second thing is, it says, Jesus told him to step forward. Oh, you take one step, they say. They say Jesus will take two. Well, no, I say you take the one. Jesus said, I got you. Relax. He said, I got the rest of the steps. So what he had to push beyond was the they. Whoa, why do we worry so much about they? I'm 53 and I still don't know who they is. And one thing I do know, they can't help me. So I gotta call on Jesus. So regardless of the help, the first step, he said, step forward. He was there. Come on to church. It's a blessing here. Jesus is here. He came again. And as I close, he said, stretch forth thy hand. I'm telling y'all, you got to stick with Jesus. Because when Jesus tells you to do it, I promise you, it's a come up. He won't keep you down. You ain't got to be ashamed. You ain't got to cover up your mess. Everybody knew the man had a withered hand. He might as well see what Jesus can do. He can fix it. We got to get real with your stuff and show Jesus your mess so he can fix it. The stretching will hurt. It's going to take effort, but we got to move beyond bad experiences. We got to move beyond the hurt. We got to move beyond the past, the present. all of that. And when he stretched forth, instantly, the can't do and the can't have broke over his life. Everything that was withered, everything became whole and it became complete. So, baby, when life deals you a bad hand, from 2020, from today and 2020 and beyond, from beginning to end, we win with Jesus.